Let me show you this. Look at this. We've got big birds up in the air. Yeah, my voice is a bit odd, by the way. Look at that in this airport. It's Harry Potter.
Is that Gandalf up there?
Potter! Okay, people. We've got a story here at the airport. We're all about to basically get on planes. Enjoyed New Zealand.
Yeah, it's lovely, isn't it?
Yeah, and the organisation, and to be in that amazing museum yesterday. Thank you so much.
That's the first time I've been there as well. It's beautiful, isn't it?
It's absolutely beautiful, but we did forget to get your story, and we forgot to get loads of people's stories. So, let's start, because you've done your own little vax study, haven't you?
Sort of. not on purpose, but yes. So,
how old are your children?
I have an 8-year-old boy, a 5-year-old girl, and a 3-year-old girl.
Okay, and so it's so important this. Could I describe you as anti-vaccine when you were pregnant with your first child?
Oh, hell no. Oh, no. No. I stood there and said to the nurse at his 6-week shots that it should be mandatory, and I couldn't understand why anybody wouldn't do it.
So you thought vaccines should be mandatory?
Yes. And the nurse said to me very quietly, be grateful that they aren't. And I remember looking at her thinking, why would you say something like that? Well, I learned the hard way.
What happened?
So,
I'm sorry, could you speak up,
oh,
please?
sorry, people are not able to hear me.
Yeah, you've really got to speak out.
I've got a very quiet voice. So, basically, he had the vitamin K shot when he was born. I had a whole heap of vaccinations about 8 months to a year before he was conceived.
Okay, do you know what kind of vaccine?
Definitely yellow fever. I think MMR. It was a whole heap because we were travelling through Africa. I actually didn't even look, to be honest. I just walked into the travel clinic and said, this is where we're going. Line them up. And I got really tired after that. I was so fatigued. I don't even remember half the trip through Africa because I just slept all the time. I had no energy. We came home, we got married, and then I got pregnant. And I got really tired. I struggled through my pregnancy, and the doctor kept saying to me, nothing to worry about, you're just pregnant. And I was like, I can't even get out of bed. I go out to visit friends and I pass out on their couch. I mean, I've got no energy at all. They dismissed it right through my whole pregnancy as just being pregnant, not a big deal, but it was not. And then he was born, he had the vitamin K, and he was unsettled to start. He never slept very well. Then he got those milk spots. He was a bit of a colicky baby, but his bowel motions and everything were pretty normal to start with, breast milk bowel motions. And then he had his 6-week shots, and he actually had them a little bit late. I think it was 7 or 8 weeks that he had them. And he then developed eczema, and he started screaming through the nights, screaming to the point where he was going like a purple-blue colour, and his veins were popping out the side of his neck, and I mean, it's just horrendous. I remember one day sitting there holding this little boy like this, just looking at him while he was screaming, and I was sitting on the couch, and I was like, I've done everything. I've tried to feed you, I've changed your nappy, I've cuddled you, I've tried to settle you. It's been days, you're not sleeping, and these veins were just popping out the side of his neck, and I was just sitting there for, I don't know, hours, just sitting there staring at this child, just the tears streaming down my face, like, because the doctors just weren't listening. I'd go in and I'd be like, this child is not sleeping, this child is not feeding properly, and they'd be like, do you know what the doctor said to me? He said to me, babies cry, go home. You need to go home, babies cry, deal with it, find a way to deal with it. And I was like, oh my goodness. And then they sort of started saying, oh, reflux baby, this way, that way. He had a bit of fluid on his kidneys when he was born, so they sent him for a, I can't remember what it's called now, MCU or something, where they pump dye through them, and they have a look to see if there's reflux in the kidneys and things like that. At that stage, it was somewhere between the 6-week shots and the 3-month shots. He was tiny. And they gave him, it was the most horrendous experience. I could hear him screaming down the passageway. It was awful. And then after that, they gave him his first course of antibiotics, 3-day, what did they say? It was like a precautionary antibiotics, just in case he developed an infection. So that was his first lot of antibiotics. He was only a couple of months old. And then I just remember him getting worse and worse and worse. The reflux, the bowel motions started to go really bad. He developed thrush, like his skin used to peel off, and the eczema, and then he had his 3-month shots, and things got so much worse. He stopped feeding because I was trying to breastfeed. He started pushing away, he was hitting me, and he just wouldn't feed properly, wouldn't sleep properly. This child didn't actually sleep more than 15 or 20 minutes at a time.
So you're in the
shot.
Yeah, so he didn't sleep more than 15 or 20 minutes at the time. His reflux got so bad, they put him on Losec, really high doses of Losec, and at the time I didn't really know that they were high doses of Losec. I just gave it to him because I needed him to sleep. But it just took the edge off, it didn't actually help. And that was 3 months. And then by coming up to the 5 month shots, I'd taken him off of breastfeeding because the doctor had suggested we try formula. And I tried him on soy formula.
Oh no.
I know. Because we were suspecting intolerances to potentially milk products and things like that in foods at that stage already. And so he went on to soy formula, and that seemed to be a little bit better, but still not good. And then he had his 5 month shots, and the reflux got so bad that I was just like, this is insane. And then the bowel motions went really funny, like even worse than what they'd been already, frothy and green and weird, and his skin was peeling off his backside at this stage, and there was nothing that was stopping it. And 2 weeks later he started running, it was about 2 weeks, within 2 weeks, he started running this really high temperature after his 5 month shots. And we went into the hospital, and I was fighting with the nurses because they wanted to send him home. I was like, something's really wrong with my child. And they were like, oh, he's just got a gastro bug, he'll be fine. And it was while I was standing there fighting with this nurse that she was trying to discharge me. I was like, I'm not going home. And he vomited all over her and went all floppy and limp. And all of a sudden we would just see everybody rush into the room, and he was so badly dehydrated. And they were trying to send me home with this really badly dehydrated child. And they had to get an IV into him, and then they kept saying to me it was gastro. They did all these tests on him, blood tests, stool tests, you name it, all came back negative.
Are you realising it's the vaccines at this point?
No.
Or still not?
I had no idea. At that stage I was thinking food allergies and reflux, because that's all that the doctors had been saying to me at that stage. So it took me quite a few months to get the doctors to even acknowledge that it wasn't just colic. And then it took a while for them to, they put him onto the Losec and the hypoallergenic formula after. Well, he was on the Losec already before this, and at the 5 months we ended up in hospital. And I actually refused to leave the hospital because they kept trying to discharge us with a diagnosis of gastroenteritis, gastro bug of some description. I was like, it's just not that. When I look back on his medical notes, he had bowel changes and vomiting sort of almost after the vaccine, screaming, restlessness, not sleeping again. And the pattern was there. You could see it when you look through the notes when I went back and did it later. At this stage I had no idea about the vaccines, and I was just thinking this child's getting worse and worse and worse, and I don't know why. And so the paediatrician came in and saw me a couple of days later. I actually stayed a couple of days extra in the hospital because I refused to leave. And he was there when he passed the bowel motion, and he said to me, oh yeah, that's not normal. I was like, you think? So he then put him onto a hypoallergenic formula called Neocate, and that did help.
Yeah.
And over the next few months, and again, no more shots after that for a while, he slowly started to improve. His sleep got a little bit better. It still wasn't fantastic. His eczema started to clear a little bit. I mean, by then he'd been on steroid creams and all sorts of things. I mean, if you look back, it's just one medication after another medication after another medication. The list is long. And so we get to about 8 or 9 months, and he's sort of settled. He's developing well though. He's hitting all his milestones. He's laughing, smiling, rolling, sitting. All that stuff was really good. It was just the more medical side of it, like along the lines of eczema, allergies, all that kind of thing that wasn't good. Reflux, extreme reflux. He was taking a higher dose of Losec than my dad, who's a grown man. And it just took the edge off. And then I remember phoning my mum when he was about 8 or 9 months old, and we'd had the first 2 hours where I'd had a happy, smiley baby for 2 hours. And I said to her, is this what it feels like to be a mum? I got a smile out of my child. I sat and played with him on the floor. And I was like, wow, is this how other mums feel when they've got happy, settled babies? I've never had that, really. 10, 15 minutes and my child was crying almost all the time, relentlessly. Anyway, by about a year old, he had a really bad stomach bug. He picked up a stomach bug somewhere around a year old, and then tonsillitis infection. We never had the ear infection thing with my son, never. That wasn't an issue for us. And then 15 months came and he was sickly. I knew something wasn't right with his immune system. He was always very pale, he had his big black rings under his eyes. And I delayed the 15-month ones until he was 18 months. And at 18 months I went in and I actually asked for an appointment with the GP because I wanted him to check him because I just had this feeling, you know. And he looked at him and he said to me, no, he's absolutely fine. I said to him, I'm a bit worried about his immune system. Do you think we should be doing this? Or should we just delay it for a bit? No, he's fine, we're going to do it. He gave him a full examination and passed him that morning. He said to me, it's all good. We gave him his shots.
What did he have?
He had MMR, Prevnar 7, I think it was at the time, and then I think he had Hib and Hep B, all in one day. And then got home, and that afternoon he was talking and walking by the age of 1. People used to say to me, your child is so advanced in that area, like wow, is he really only 1, you know? Because he was string like 2 to 3 word sentences and stuff like that, easily. And very smart, quick, switched on child. And we got home, and I remember a couple of hours later, he was holding his teeth like this, and he was pulling at his teeth. Mummy, my head hurts, Mummy, head hurts. And I was like, oh wow, you know, like he was really in pain. Phoned the nurse at the clinic and I said, look, I think he's had a bit of a reaction to the vaccines this morning. And I explained everything that was going on. I mean, he was really unsettled. He didn't really have too much of a temperature that day, but the head, it was just obviously, you know, it was really intense. I'd never seen him do anything like that before. And the nurse said to me, oh, you need to bring him back in, could possibly be a reaction. I got back in, saw the GP, and the GP said to me, no, not possible, don't think so. And I was like, what do you mean not possible? And he was like, oh, no, it's highly unlikely. I was like, but possible. And eventually he kind of said, look, it is possible, but I just don't think it is. And it's far more likely to be a coincidence, and it's probably just a migraine. And I was like, really? He's never had a migraine. Well, you know, he's so little, how do you know? But I was like, not that I'm aware of. Anyway, I left there and I was just thinking, something doesn't feel right. Anyway, so then during that week he started to run temperatures. He got sick, he got a cough, and he just generally wasn't very well. I think his tonsils flared up as well from memory. And then within a month, I was back there questioning his balance. His balance had started going off, and he would walk down the passageway and one of his legs would just get a little bit limp. No, it wasn't really obvious, it was quite slight, but he was falling over a lot. And that's when it started, and so his motor skills started to sort of just go. Things he was doing quite confidently before, he used to fall so much, and then he started stuttering on words that he had already had so clearly. And so I was in and out of the doctors all the time. Look, something's not right here, you know, something's really not right here. I'm really concerned. Dismiss me, paranoid mother. And then I went in one day and I had this huge fight with him because I said, look, I know he's not actually sick right now, as in, you know, this is as good as he gets. And he was pale with these massive big black rings under his eyes. And I actually just went in there to have this conversation with the doctor because I was like, I'm really concerned about my child. And I said to him, something is not right. And he said to me, he examined him, and he gave me this really stupid look as if like, you are wasting my time, woman. There is nothing clinically wrong with this child. And I said, well, I disagree. This is as good as it gets, and he is not healthy. And so eventually, to get me out of his office, he agreed to run blood tests. And I said to him, fine, I'll do them. Because he was like, is that what you really want? Like, this was going to be the most awful thing for my child.
Blood test for what?
Blood test, just a general blood count, blood test, nothing specific. And those blood tests came back and they showed a really high C-reactive protein, really low lymphocytes, high monocytes, and a few other things. I mean, and this is not good stuff. I mean, my child was not good. There was all sorts of stuff going on in his body, and the doctor phoned me the next morning really sheepishly saying to me when the results came back in, oh yeah, something's not right, we actually need you to come back in. I was like, we need you to come back in so we can discuss his blood test. I was so angry with him at that stage. I was just like, you know what? You mean that child that you said to me was clinically nothing wrong with him? I was like, I don't think so, I'm going to go and see another doctor. And I did go in and I saw a little while after that, I saw another doctor, an more integrated holistic doctor. It was the first time I'd done that. I didn't even know that you had integrated holistic doctors. I didn't know what a naturopath was. I didn't know anything about holistic medicine. I mean, medicine was a GP. That's what I knew. That's what I did. But a friend had recommended that I go and see a naturopath, and I was like, what the hell is a naturopath? So I started looking into it, and then I found this GP that had a more holistic sort of view on things, and we went and we saw him, and he spent 2 hours with me, and he just listened, and at the end of that he sort of suggested some dietary changes, and he gave me a whole lot of information and said you need to go and read this stuff, and then he put him on to some very basic supplements, vitamin C, cod liver oil, probiotics, vitamin D, stuff like that, reasonably high-ish doses, and said once you've learnt a bit more you'll start. That's all he did, but that's where I started to really start looking into things and learning more and more and more. And I think the vitamin C and stuff really did start to help. Like he wasn't, almost like he slowed down. That regression slowed down for him. The stuttering was still quite bad. The behaviour was terrible. Like ADHD, hyperactivity, defiant. It got to the point where he was just really hard to manage. We couldn't give him anything with colours in it, or sugar, or anything like that. He just used to lose the plot. Like I've heard you say many times, diet, diet, diet. It is so important for these kids. They've got to have such clean diets. And then it really came to a point when his daycare got hold of me and said to me, something's wrong with your child's motor skills. He's actually...
With your child's what?
Motor skills, his gross motor skills. You know, he's falling over when he used to be able to walk down the bar, like they used to have these little things that the kids walk on and play on, like the jungle gym areas and stuff. He's actually falling over all the time.
Is it, you know, in Vax where that little boy, Gina Reed's boy, falls over? Do you see that?
Yes,
that boy had Krevnar as well.
Did he? So I didn't know that. Obviously, when I saw that little boy, I was like, oh my goodness. But he was much more severe than my child, because that's what I said to my mum when we watched it. I was like, he actually struggling to actually stand up and walk. Dylan used to be able to walk, but then the one side would just give, and then he would fall over, and then he'd get back up. And so it was a little bit, it was a little bit different, not quite as severe, but it was definitely there, and it was going quite slowly. And the daycare complained, and we've been in to see my doctor about it so many times, just dismiss us. Just, it's developmental, sometimes it'll go away. And it wasn't going away, and I went in and I said to him, we had a weekend away. I don't know what happened, but it was like something had snapped in him, and he went really quiet, stopped talking to me, and when he was talking so quietly that you couldn't hear him, and then he stopped making eye contact over that weekend. He was crying the whole time, and everybody, because we were away with family and friends, but really close family and friends, people that had known him since he was born, and people were coming to me and saying to me, what is wrong with him? Why is he doing this? Like, has something happened? I'm like, no, and I don't know what's wrong with him. And it was around the same time that the daycare had said to me, look, we're noticing that his gross motor skills are just shocking, like he's going backwards, not forwards. So I went back into the GP and I demanded that we got sent on to a specialist. And the specialist said to us, yes, basically there's something there. Well, I mentioned to him that I was concerned that this started from the vaccines. And the specialist said to us, well, he glazed over, wasn't interested in listening to the vaccine thing, wasn't even interested in talking about that, and so that was quite clear from the beginning. At the end of the consult he said to us, yep, it looks like there's definitely something going on here. He threw ADHD into the report that he wrote for the doctor, and he basically just said, and while we were talking to him he was saying things like oppositional defiance disorder, ADHD, just a difficult child. He's a smart child, but he's a difficult child, and you have to bring him back when he starts school, and we'll have to look at medication at that stage. And I was like, what kind of medication? And he was like, possibly Prozac or Ritalin or stuff like that. And I just remember looking at him, I was like, I've got this 2-year-old boy. He was almost 3 at that stage, he was 2.5. And I said to him, I don't want him on that stuff, and I want to do something now. I don't want to wait till he's like 5 or 6. What can we do now? And he said to me, nothing. Bring him back when he's 5 or 6. Once we've had a report from the school, we'll put him on medication. I remember walking out of that appointment feeling absolutely helpless. I was like, this is insane. I need to help my boy now. And I was so angry at that stage with pediatricians and doctors. And I just carried on with what we were doing. And I was pregnant with my second child at that stage, and then she was born. And I mean, we were okay, we were managing. Diet changes, those few supplements that doctor put us on, we were okay, we were managing. I was seeing a chiropractor at that stage as well. And that not talking and stuff. It only lasted a few days, and then he sort of came out of it. But he still wasn't right. And then my daughter came along, and I just had this feeling and not to mention all the tonsillitis infections. So after his 18-month shots, this child had tonsillitis after tonsillitis, antibiotic after antibiotic. So, that would have been adding to things as well. He was so sick. And
did you give your girl anything?
Okay.
You've only got 1 minute.
All right.
Your flight's about to go. Get on to your unvaccinated quickly.
So quickly, my daughter was born, and I just thought, I can't do this. I just can't do this. So then I started researching really, really hard, and I was reading all the data sheets in New Zealand. We get data sheets that MedSafe does, and I read all those, and my husband and I read them, and we looked at each other, we're like, we can't do this. And so that's when I started researching vaccines in more detail. So my daughter she had the vitamin K injection. She was a little bit jaundiced, but she's healthier than my son was. And then that was my second child. And then we had another girl, and we gave her oral vitamin K. Now I wouldn't give vitamin K at all, because I think that upset her gut a little bit. But my third child was also completely vaccine-free, other than the vitamin K. She's never been into hospital. She's hardly seen the doctor. She's had Haemophilus influenza, no antibiotics. She recovered in less than a week. All my kids have had chicken pox, and the one that was the sickest, the one that always goes down the hardest, is my vaccinated child. And the other two recover so much quicker and are so much stronger. And my 4-year-old now, she's the one that's only seen a doctor a handful of times, and the one that had diagnosed Haemophilus influenza. She was swabbed. It wasn't just we think she might have. She definitely had it. And when I look at, she was sick. It took a few days. She was really sick for about 2 or 3 days. But when I look at some of the things, like when kids had chickenpox, Haemophilus influenza, and I just think to myself, I would do that in a heartbeat over the screaming, the crying, the sickly child, the exhaustion, the worry, the stress. It was just horrendous what we went through with my first child, and it was ongoing and relentless, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
So what's your conclusion? Vax versus unvax study in your home?
I would never vaccinate another child over my dead body ever again.
So you've gone from wanting vaccines mandated to never vaccinate your child?
Pretty much. Never, ever, ever.
You're going to miss your flight. You have to
I have to go.
Give me YouTube. I'll take this a second. Wait, you good?
Need my finger.
Thank you so much, and for all the work you've done for New Zealand tour.
Only a pleasure.
Yeah, you're great. I'm sorry we had to rush the end of your story, but I think everybody gets it.
Yeah.
And so
Bye, Polly. Bye, Anu.